Most common question asked by the non-Muslim about Islam is that why does Islam allow a Muslim man to marry more than one woman? Why is polygamy allowed in Islam? Who agrees that this is one of the most common questions? Raise your hand. Who agrees that this is one of the most common question? Most common question. Who disagrees that it is not a common question? Raise your hand. See, that's easier. So no one disagrees that it is one of the most common question, which many of the Muslims may not know how to convince a non-Muslim. He may be convinced himself, but oneself being convinced on his own is different than convincing somebody else. The meaning of the word polygamy is that a person is allowed to have more than one spouse. That's the meaning of the word polygamy. Any person who has more than one spouse, it is called that he is doing polygamy. Polygamy is further divided into two parts. One is polygyny, that is, a man having more than one wife, and polyandry, that is, a woman having more than one husband. So Islam doesn't permit all types of polygamy. It permits limited polygyny. It permits a man to marry more than one woman, limited. And polyandry is prohibited. We'll come to it later on. Why does Islam allow a man to have more than one wife? Quran is the only religious scripture on the face of the earth which says marry only one. There is no other religious scripture on the face of the earth which says marry only one. You read the Bhagavad Gita, you read the Ramayana, you read the Bible. No religious scripture on the face of the earth says marry only one except the glorious Quran. If you read the Hindu scriptures, the sages, the saints, there are several wives. The father of Ram, King Dashrath, he had more than one wife. Lord Krishna, he had several wives, hundreds of them, thousands of them. If you read the Jewish scriptures, they have no upper limit how many you can marry. You can marry as many as you wish. Abraham, according to the Bible, Old Testament, peace be upon him, he had 3 wives. Solomon had 700 wives. So in the Jewish scripture, you can marry as many as you wish. It was only when the rabbi, Genshen ben Yehuda, in the 11th century, he passed a synod that the Jews should only marry one. But the scriptures say you can marry as many as you wish. And in as late as 1950, in the Sephardic community, where the Jews lived amongst the Muslims, they used to marry more than one. It's only after 1950 that they stopped marrying more than one wife. If you read the Christian Bible, you can marry as many as you wish. It is the church which a couple of centuries ago has put an upper limit maximum one. In fact, if you read the report of the Committee of the Status of Women in Islam that's published in India, there it said that the polygamous marriages done in India, the Hindus, so the law says, that you cannot marry more than one woman. The scriptures say you can marry as many as you wish. It is the Indian law which was passed in 1954 which says that a Hindu cannot marry more than one woman. The scriptures give permission, no upper limit. It is the Indian government law which under the Hindu Marriage Act has said that a Hindu man can only marry one. And according to the statistics of the Committee of the Status of Women in Islam, on page number 66 and 67 of the year 1975, it says that the polygamous marriages done in India by the Hindus was 5.06% between 1951 and 1961. And the Muslims, though Muslims are allowed by the Indian law to marry more than one woman, the Hindus aren't. Muslims married more than one woman. The percentage was 4.31. Hindus 5.06. By law they aren't allowed. Muslims by law we are allowed, and yet 4.31. God knows if the law would have allowed, how many would they have married. So if you analyze, there's no religious scripture on the face of the earth which says marry only one except the glorious Quran. The Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 3 that marry women of a choice in 2s, 3s or 4s. But if you can't do justice, marry only one. This statement, marry only one, is only given in the glorious Quran and no other religious scripture. The Quran has put an upper limit. Maximum that you can marry is 4. Before the Quran was revealed, people used to have tens and hundreds of wives. Quran said maximum 4. But you can only marry more than one woman if you can do justice. If you can't do justice, marry only one. And the glorious Quran says in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 129, that it is impossible to be just between your wives. I mean, total justice is impossible. But do not turn away from them altogether. That means, here Quran is referring that when it comes to love, it's impossible to be just between two wives. Like a mother, even though she loves all the children, yet she cannot love two children equally. She may say verbally, I love all my children. But if you actually post-mortem her views, you come to know that there has to be that the mother loves one child more than the other. Overall, she may love equally. But minutely, there has to be a difference. Similarly, a man cannot love two wives or three wives equally. The Quran says it's impossible to do justice where love is concerned, etc. But otherwise, where other things are concerned, about money, about time, about other things, other commodity, material things, you should do justice between your wives. And as far as possible, even try doing justice where love is concerned. Even though it's impossible, try your level best. And many people think that marrying more than one wife is compulsory in Islam. If you're a Muslim, you have to marry more than one wife. There are 5 categories of do's and don'ts in Islam. The first is compulsory, that is fard. The second is mustahab, encouraged. The third is mubah, optional. The fourth is makruh, the detestable or discouraged. And the fifth is haram, that is prohibited. Polygyny, a Muslim man marrying more than one woman, falls in the middle category of optional. It is not that if you marry more than one woman, you get more sawab. But if you marry more than one woman and if you don't do justice, you're in trouble. So marrying more than one wife in Islam, marrying more than one woman, is optional. Let's analyze the logical reason what we can think of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His divine wisdom has allowed certain men to have more than one woman.